Good morning, everybody. W- I'm Rick. Hold on, cut. Welcome to another episode of the Force for Girls podcast. I'm Ricardo.
I'm Courtney. Hello. Thank you for tuning in. Today we are coming in strong, first day of the week. So we're talking expectations, Whew, which kind of makes me sweat a little, but I also get really excited about this one. So let's get started.
Expectations, Courtney Carr.
Those darn expectations, they'll get us every time, won't they?
Yes, and expectations are directly tied to our own personal rules about a situation on somebody, what we think about ourselves. We have expectations about ourselves, slash rules. We have
hmm
rules in relationships, rules in work, which all those rules that we have about these turn into expectations.
Yes. And then there's this tricky thing that happens where we think everybody knows our rule book, right?
Wait,
And
wait,
we
wait, what?
think,
Hold on, hold on,
yeah,
hold on. Back it up, Courtney. Back it
yeah.
up.
Am I the
Beep,
only
beep,
one?
beep, 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 beep. That's the truck backing it up. Back it up. Are you trying to tell me that you're not playing by my rule book, Courtney Carr? Is that
I'm
what you're trying
not.
to tell me?
I'm not. I'm playing by my own.
Wait, you have your own rule book?
What? Yeah. Yeah.
You're trying to tell me that the whole world and everyone I interact with does not play by my rules?
Unfortunately, yes. We are not all reading the Ricardo rule book.
Well, that explains a lot.
Right? Just about everything in your life, you're like, it all makes more sense now, right?
Uh-huh. The
hmm
light bulb went off. Like, wow, okay, if everyone's not playing by my rule book, that sure does explain a lot of the issues that I have in my personal life with myself and other people that I interact with.
Yeah. Yeah. And the quote that I do want to bring up just because it knocked me on the floor whenever I first heard it and just really like made a lot make sense. But Kyle Cease on Impact Theory, he basically just said they didn't break your heart, they broke your expectations.
Mm.
And nothing made more make better sense in my life than when I heard that quote really. And but I think it nails it on the head in that it's how tricky it is. It was your heart broken by something? Probably yes. Was it somebody else's intentionally breaking of your expectations? No. And so that's just more where we're going to talk about and dissect it. But I mean, the chances of our expectations matching our neighbors is slim to none, because
Wow.
we have different life experiences and different rules and different meanings and values and just so much. And so it makes life look a lot different, changes the perspective of everything if you can reframe expectations.
It doesn't work that way, huh?
No, no,
Uh, uh, uh.
unfortunately. We'd all
Okay,
like
so
it
let's
to,
so let's
but
crack open the rule book.
okay.
Hold on. I have a dinging noise coming over here for some reason. But let's crack open the rule book and share some of your expectations, Courtney.
Okay.
What are some
So
of your expectations that you have in life?
I'll pick a personal one first. The just my relationship. So it's not really one particular event, although there've been many, but Mike and I come from very different backgrounds and very different families and very different life experiences. We're the classic of opposites attract. And so there's a lot we are still teaching each other about each other, right? But expectations. And it still happens in it, whether it's a big situation or a little situation where if we don't line out what we expect from each other or what we expected from the situation as to when we're dissecting and resolving things, it just clears everything up in a way that you can actually understand the other person or their heart or their mind or what they're going through right now and just kind of sit there with them instead of this whole you should understand how I feel exactly without talking about it, without going through things, without, learning about each other. And so that's just something I do in my relationship is we have to really set the expectation. If I don't set the expectation, it's just a guessing game for him. And when you love somebody, you don't want to send them through that mental trauma of a guessing game, right? So many relationships fall right there. And so if you learn to just lovingly explain what your expectations are and have your partner do that to you, it's just really changed the way we communicate and the way we understand each other and the way we love each other. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So one of mine Such a good one, and I think you're the only one in the world that has that
Right?
kind of expectation in a
Just me,
relationship too,
guys.
just
Just
you.
me.
So I have another one that's just me,
Okay.
nobody else. Okay,
Right.
when people tell me that they're gonna do something, I expect them to do it.
Oh, all lessons there, isn't
Oh yeah,
it?
yeah. If they tell me they're gonna be somewhere, if they tell me that this is gonna happen or that's gonna happen, then I expect it to happen.
Mhm.
And the one thing that always trips me up is when people say, I think, I think I'll be there. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Does that mean you're going to be there? Does that thing mean you won't? Does that mean you're going to be sitting at home thinking about it? I don't know
Yeah.
what that
Are you
means.
committing to thinking about it, or are you committing to coming?
I
Like,
don't understand. I think I can make it. Well, can you or can't you? I don't
yeah.
understand what I think means. Right. And that's been one of the biggest things with me and Jesse in particular is that if we use those vague terms around me, I'm like, I don't know exactly what that means,
Mhm.
which is kind of another little micro expectation to be
Yeah.
clear and concise.
Well, it's like, what did you talk about that one time you and Julian went to lunch at some restaurant? Y'all both ended up at that same restaurant, different locations.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So that's just simple
Simple.
reference to
I expected him
expectations.
to show up to where I was without conveying the exact address of where we were going.
Mm, yeah.
Wah,
But
wah,
when
wah.
you multiply that in a relationship and it's just, I mean, you have multiple hearts involved, you have multiple brains involved, and it just, and so if we just take a step back and either ask somebody what their expectation was, or just tell, like, may I have your permission to share what my expectation is, and just get comfortable saying those type things. A lot of people
Correct.
appreciate it. But
Okay. Expectation number two, Courtney.
okay, so this one was career. Okay, so starting a new venture and basically signing on to partner with somebody of the same expertise on paper, things that I just had a lot of expectations going into this role, that they had a lot of the same understandings I did, or the same experiences I did. And basically coming to the realization that this person has never worked with anyone, never managed anyone, never trained anyone, never, you know, basically been in a leadership role. And it just really shook me to the core, because I was like, oh, I should have asked some more questions. I should have, interviewed them in the interview type thing, that really I knew better. But that was a lesson I had to learn, because not everybody, it, a lot of us can look similar on paper, but when you're actually trying to create a project and work on something and a mission together, you need to discuss your expectations. You need to discuss what you expect. You need to ask them what they expect. You need to say, hey, what should we expect to do if things don't go well? You got to lay it all out there. And I did not do that. And I paid the price for that. And that was a lesson I had to learn. So, check,
Done and done.
done and done. I'll handle
Okay.
that differently from here on
I
out.
got one, but this is a very specific type of expectation. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. And I'm going to say it in the form of a story, of a real life experience that happened this weekend. So
Okay.
we have our circle of success meetings, right? And we rent out a meeting space in a hotel, and we have everything set up. And we've been going to this particular hotel, I think, for about 2 years now. We're going on for a few years now.
2 or 3?
And the expectation is always that the air conditioning is working.
Mm,
So we go in there, and the air conditioner works really well, right? We know
really
this because
well.
I like to freeze it out. Yes.
Yes, usually you need to bring a blanket to tolerate
Usually you do
Ricardo.
need to bring a blanket, like, dressed like for winter in Texas and all of that kind of good stuff, right?
Yes.
And we had our circle of success meeting this last Saturday.
Yes.
And guess
Mm,
what? We went and the air condition was broken. So
womp, womp,
in this
womp.
case, this is not necessarily a rule, but it is an expectation because we've gone to this hotel several times and the air conditioner always works, right? So there was a expectation in a sense. However, this is beyond anyone's control. The staff was wonderful. They did everything they could to accommodate. They brought fans and all this kind of stuff, but sometimes stuff happens,
Yeah.
right? Shift happens.
And the show must go on.
And the show must go on. The event must go on, right?
Mhm.
And even though there was a shift there, even though that we did expect this, they swore up and down that the air conditioner was working the day before, and they were apologizing, and they did their best to make amends, right? And that's all sometimes anybody can do.
Right.
And when it comes to expectations like that particular type of expectation, we have to be a little bit flexible. We have to breathe and relax. And I'm putting myself in that state because, man, flexibility and understanding was not my first thought when I went in there and the AC wasn't working. I was not a happy camper. I was not happy, Courtney.
Yeah.
I was rather irritated. No one was there, and I was already sweating. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, when everyone starts arriving, it's going to be a hot mess. Literally,
Right?
not
Literally.
metaphorically, but it's literally going to be a hot mess. And I was just like, wow, okay.
Mhm.
I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Yeah. But we pivoted and yeah, you notified us all. We came ready and it ended up to be a lot better than we thought. Granted, could you have wanted it a few degrees cooler? Yes,
Yes.
but it was fine. It was fine. But that's a great example of a lot of things. But, you know, just because we have air conditioning in our homes and we're blessed to live in homes with air conditioning and a roof over our head and blah, 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 that's not guaranteed.
Nope.
So sometimes life will throw you these little things, maybe you call it snowmageddon or whatever, but throw you these situations that make you a lot more appreciative for what you have and teaching you to pivot when you need to pivot. You know
It
what?
was a good pivot though, wasn't it?
That
It
was.
was a good pivot. I really had to change my expectation about how I like the room to be and temperature and all of these things in order to really just hone in there, right?
Yeah.
But it was
We're
okay.
most worried about you because you're the one that needs it so cold.
I will say this. I bet you none of you Jesse was just like, I'm never gonna complain about it being cold in that room ever again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I heard that a lot of people saying that, which I appreciate.
Mhm. Yeah. I think it was a wonderful meeting. So, yes.
What's another expectation? So we've been talking about expectations we have about other people in other situations.
I'll give
What's an
one about
expectation?
an actual podcast chat that we've had because a lot of our friends are working on projects and things like that. And so something that you said to me that just sticks with me. So we have these cool mics and we have this cool equipment and this software that you can edit if I'm making too much noise or background noise. But you said something to me one time that, well, if anyone ever has you as a guest or interviews you on a separate program, a separate podcast, they're going to expect you to sound as professional as you do in the edited
Ooh,
version. And I still like that still kind of shakes me sometimes where I'm like, I might be sitting in on a Zoom for some networking thing that I might not be hosting it or running it or this or that. But, the quality and my standard has just continued to go up and up with sound. And well, anyway, you can find them on YouTube. And anyway, our first recordings just I thought I had good sound quality. Let me just stop there. I did not. Okay. So I've learned a lot. And especially from
uh,
things like, hobbies and sound engineering and things like that. So I had a lot to learn there and I still do in that it's, yeah, I might have the equipment, but now it's down to my breathing patterns, my tonality, things like
correct.
that. And so we're, of course, never stopping 1% better every day, every time, every episode. But that was a giant one to me, and so in case that'll help anyone else, Ricardo said that to me, and it makes me wanna get the mic and everything plugged up and set up and when I'm tempted, just use my phone, I'm like, "No, quality matters, standard matters."
It does. It
So
does.
so I
And
thank you
I'll
for that,
say
my
this
friend.
that okay, so we're talking about expectations that we put on other people. We're talking about expectations in the professional setting and being flexible, right? We're touching on those
Yes.
expectations in relationships. And I'm
Mhm.
just recapping just for you and me, Courtney, not for
Okay.
anybody else, by
Thank
the
you.
way.
Thank you.
And then what you just mentioned is another type of expectations that are thrust upon us,
Yes, that's a good distinction.
right?
Mhm.
Because other podcasts, other people don't know the tools that we use because I don't really just put it out there, right? They
Yeah.
don't know the editing process and the cleaning up that I do on the back end.
Mhm.
And they just take it that how we sound is how we sound.
Yeah.
That's how these guys sound.
Yeah. Which,
And
if you're just starting, go for it. Don't let any of
oh
that
yeah,
hold
yeah,
you
yeah,
back.
for
But
sure.
you clean it up and you tweak it over time on
Yes,
purpose.
for sure. And I never really realized it until we started talking about that because I was just like, wow, what are people gonna think when when they invite us to be on another podcast? And then we go over there and we're like, they're like, wait a second, this
Oh,
isn't the
oh,
person
sorry,
that
my
I just
dog's
heard.
barking. Yeah.
This isn't the person I just heard on 5 episodes before, right? But that was an expectation that was kind of thrust upon you because
Mhm.
we don't know what other people's perceptions are,
Right.
right? The perception of how we come across, is that the reality, and does that perception turn into an expectation? And most of the time it does.
Yeah.
It does. And
Mhm.
are perceptions necessarily always true? No,
No.
not always. The
Oh,
majority of the time, probably, but not always. But there's a saying that goes around and it says, your perception is the reality.
yeah.
So what you perceive is, in fact, the reality,
You just said
true or
something.
not, right?
Yeah. I just had to write it down because you just said something that blew my mind and I'm wrapping my head around it. Okay, but you're talking about perceptions become expectations and you mentioned insecurity. When the person grabs the outside expectations and holds them inward and tries to start becoming that themselves when that may or may not be who they truly are, what's that called? Insecurity. So that's interesting. So perceptions can become expectations, expectations can become insecurities, when
Mm,
all of that could have been solved if you just confronted the perception or the expectation in the beginning.
correct.
Anyway, whole
We're
nother
we're all,
conversation. I'm really deep in thought now because of that.
yeah, because I mean, the truth of the matter is we're always being judged. And I'm not saying, usually in the context and self-development, judgment is a bad thing, right? Like, God, don't judge people. We don't want to be judgy. We don't want to be critical.
Mhm.
But the truth of the matter is that people are always judging us.
Yeah.
They judge how we sound on the podcast. They judge how we look. They judge how we come across. They judge how we show up to a professional event or the beach,
Mhm.
right? If you show up to a professional event with sandals and a beach wear, you're gonna be like, wait, what? But if you
That's
show
it.
up to the beach party in a business suit, wait, what? Like it's whether it's intentional or not, it's always a judgment.
Mhm.
It's always a judgment, right?
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And with every judgment, we create a new expectation, a new perception for that person. And it's just
Mhm.
how it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
The
how
whole
it
know,
is.
like, and trust that Carnegie's talking about. How do we know, like, and trust people? We judge them. I mean, that's
Correct.
a fact. So
This was a great conversation.
this was. I feel like we can keep going on this, but
We
okay.
can.
To keep it
But
on expectations, I guess we should wrap it up here.
yeah, but I mean, the whole point of this particular episode is to raise your awareness. We're the intention here is for you to see these patterns in yourself
Mhm.
and be like, you know what, I have something similar to that. Maybe not exactly word for word or example per example, but
Mhm.
in the general vicinity, we're just trying to get into that zip code to
Yeah.
like, oh, you know what, I have a similar situation where I feel that way.
Mhm.
And it's okay for you to feel that way. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And how are you going to change it to be a better person?
Yeah. Yeah. And set your expectations out there. Like let them known in a loving way, in a loving way. Don't use angry tones or anything with these, but if you don't lay out your expectations, somebody will assume their own. And
Hmm.
the chances that they're going to assume different than yours is about 100%. So there's a lot of just keeping the focus on the mission or the project in the right direction by just laying out your expectations and asking, hey, Ricardo, what are yours for this? Okay. And maybe you don't have any, and then you can create them together. Like the power that is here, that just keeping it to ourselves and not saying it and assuming and judging and it
All that
doesn't
stuff.
lead us to a good place when we can just open our mouths and say it.
No.
Yeah.
An honorable mention to expectations about ourselves. That's one thing
Yeah.
we didn't touch on a lot
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Honorable mention, expectations about ourselves, which can be just as tough as the expectations that we put on other people.
I think we should do which we might need to do another talk on that one because
We
there's a
might.
lot there. There's a
There is
lot.
a lot there about those pesky expectations on ourselves.
Yes, we had an
What?
amazing Circle of Success meeting on Saturday, so that's where I'm like, before we spend another half hour on that, but
It is.
good stuff. So,
Ah.
yeah,
Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Remember to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at
force for growth, and always remember to be a force for good
A Force for Growth.
and a force for greatness. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.